worst things that's happened this year, I want to say, I think I'll start off on mine. I think the worst thing for 2023 for me was just Twitter in general. I don't know what it was about this year, but fighting game Twitter was fucking unhinged.
It was trash. Can I interrupt real quick? Yes. That was going to be one of mine. But I decided to keep it fighting game related. So yes.
It is still fighting game related.
I know.
Twitter was just a freaking mess. There was so much drama. There was so much stuff that got aired out that didn't need to be aired out. There was so much like just arguing over the dump. I mean, it's Twitter. Like Twitter's not a real place, so why should we treat it any differently? But regardless, that still kind of would bleed in and would still affect things. I just thought it was just really shitty this year. Like if you weren't posting tech, if you weren't posting, I don't know,
just content,
like,
new content,
or content in general, maybe a really dope podcast you should go check out. It was just bitching. It was just bitching. Like, dude, that's all it was. It was just bitcher 2023 is all I saw.
It wasn't even that. It was the magnification of the smallest detail on somebody's status. Like, for instance, I didn't post a meme because I felt like I would get shat on or ran through like crazy. That's how kind of bad it could have been. Even though I think I did post a couple Arturo memes. But with the receipts,
you gave into the problem, Static. You gave into the fucking problem.
However, it's just like any minuscule. It was like quote tweet. Everybody was quote tweeting, and it's like everybody had a thought about it. It was every week. It was either Brian F had a thought, Chris G had a thought, James Chen had a thought, and it's like, why does everybody need to quote tweet and then reply to the same little dude? And then it's like, I'm muting this just because. I'm like, like,
but it all too often that I think it got blown out of proportion. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some tweets that were necessary. There were some things that were positive and like Meza said, necessary. Absolutely. I'm not going to take it away as a whole, but I think the ratio, if I were to give it a fucking ratio, it's probably like 70-30, 70 going to bullshit. At least that's what I was seeing on my feeds. I was trying to, mute the crap out the way, but once it spreads and goes viral within the small circles that you get on your feeds, you're always going to end up seeing it. But that, in my opinion, was 2023. We're going to save Static for last since he was ready to rock. So we'll let the best for last. Meza, what about you? What do you think 2023 was just absolute, just 0-10 matchup? Didn't want to see it, didn't care for it, but it still happened anyway. What was it?
I don't even want to say this almost, but it's two things. It's a jointed thing because it kind of reminds me that we're still small as a community. Is when
absolutely
someone steps out of their own category of gaming to say something about our category. So I would say, like, when I sit on Twitter and I see everything, it's not just Twitter, but it's also on YouTube. It's nice to hear, and I'll say this just to kind of like press back a little bit. It's nice that I can listen to speedrunners bring up fighting games and how difficult it is to play those games. But then I also can't stand watching the fighting game community self-destruct themselves over a game that they don't even play. I feel like I had to bear the brunt of a lot of it with DNF Duel. So I don't understand, and I don't think I'll ever understand the hatred for a game that nobody plays. So that kind of always hurt, like watching on Twitter, that I had to tell my own community, like, don't respond to it, which is so weird to me because I'm like, we should be trying to, pick each other up and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say it's a big mixture of just a DNF Duel community and getting kind of fucked over in the situation, as well as Guilty Gear with the whole Arturo thing. So watching other scenes have to talk about something of an OG player, that for me was like, oh shit, we're going down this path again that we just got out of maybe no more than like 2-3 years ago before COVID. So the Arturo situation, probably one of the worst things to me, followed up by now the newbie gaming thing, which both those situations are just a shit show. Like, I'm just like, can we go back to just playing fighting games, man? Like, cut all the bullshit.
the other side of it is like it's both a good and a bad. It's definitely a bad thing, you know, because you deal with people that aren't as involved, or you know, kind of like outsider coming in and trying to dictate things. It's kind of the fighting game historically has never reacted well to it, or has adjusted to that well. But on the other side, it's a good thing because that just means that's interest. I know that's kind of like weird to say.
No,
like, well,
you're right.
Like, because some people will be like, "Oh, what? Who cares about the interest if it still causes damage?" True. I'm not saying it's like, you know, it's just like it's not the same as like good and bad publicity. You know, publicity is publicity, but at the same time, it kind of is. But I get what you mean. We're still dealing with that, and I honestly I don't know if that's ever gonna go away. To be honest, because if we grow, it's only going to more than likely commonly happen more. But
I do feel like it's kind of hard for me to look at the little things without saying the bigger thing, which is kind of just, it's an overall, I know we're looking back at mostly fighting games, but this does affect us. I feel like watching the whole esports like community and just ecosystem slowly like having its shit shows where it's falling apart, then it's back together, and it almost breeds this like narrative that someone has to step up to the plate and save it. And I think it's a matter of multiple people instead of just that one person. And it's kind of scary because like you don't know. We've been playing games for 13 plus years, like competitively, maybe 15, some people 20, and it's just like, oh, we thought we were at that point where things were going to be great. And it's just like, holy shit, wait, games like League of Legends are taking blows and Counter-Strike. Yeah. And they're like, well, what about us? What do we have to do?
Yeah. We still have much to grow. We still have a lot of the same bullshit to deal with. But the good thing about it is that we do, you know, as much as you also said, like, you know, how other communities look at fighting games and they recognize like, yo, it's tough playing these games. Those same people that have that kind of respect are starting to cross over into it and actually become like real fighting game people, like they're actually playing or they're really getting involved, and there's only going to be positive things that are going to come from that at the same time. So it's a give and take. You know, take the highs and lows as fighting games, baby. In all aspects, you're going to get your lumps on. It's no different as a community for sure. All right, Static.
Okay.
Best for last. What? Yeah. In 2023 was your go-to? Like, nope, that was a strike.
Mortal Kombat. I feel like Mortal Kombat just missed the mark.
Next, no.
Yeah, no, I was ready. He's loaded.
So MK1. Like, you're saying MK1 was for you the biggest kind of hit.
I feel like they missed the mark. They had a chance. You could have had a chance to announce the game much earlier in the year and have a bit more hype and a bit more quality control. I feel as though like there was a lot of things that were found that just didn't feel like the game was complete early on. Mm-hmm. Even like at Evo, the game felt fine at Evo, and then when the game released, it's like all these other characters, all these other cameos, all these things that could have been sort of tested out, and now you're slowly trickling the little patches here and there, and those patches are a little bit more of a dare I say a band-aid on like it's not even a band-aid. How about this?
They band-aid on a broken arm kind of deal?
No, actually reverse. They put like a suture kit on a tiny cut on a paper cut. You know, like they would put they would put stitches
it up when it was
on a small. Exactly, and it's like, come on, Cyrax didn't need that big of a nerf. I mean, yes, it was bad. You could have taken away the damage. You could have fixed the assist. You could have fixed the how much the assist takes, or at least maybe the recovery. But don't straight up take it off. Like it's almost like it's not even there. Yeah. They just fatality'd it. Now the other thing that I feel like
they're stepping too hard early.
Yes, without letting the meta grow, even though the Baraka damage could have been toned down, or maybe even the actual, you know, assist damage could have been taken down. And you know, there were other characters that only used it. Now Low Hat is the one that's giving people problems, and people are just not playing the game. Like there's not many streaming it. People loved it, streamed it. Coach Steve is one of the only ones who I see stream it on my list. Now, and also like Perfect Legend, maybe.
I like
Dark. The other thing is
MK and J.
Yeah, and Mike Metroid as well. However, the other thing is their DLC schedule. It is going on all the way until June, and your last character is going to be a returning character rather than a guest character. Someone who we haven't seen since Mortal Kombat X, Takeda, obviously. And we only saw him get, sorry, spoilers in the story, killed on the stairs in the story mode. All four of the kids were killed off on the story mode stairs. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, there was no explanation of that. And, but also, like, again, obviously we're getting, Quan Chi, we're getting Chameleon at the end of this month, but we just got Quan Chi, but they showcased the Chameleon character, one with the crap fatality. And then it just doesn't feel like there's ambition there. I can tell. It just doesn't feel like there's enough to back it up, and enough enough care to back it up. It feels like we're only going to get one season of DLC. I don't even feel like we're going to get more. And I say that because of how abruptly Injustice 2 ended. Granted, I liked this game. I liked where it went. Sindel feels, but I think it's again, it's ambitious. It's a different direction, but I just feel like it hasn't been executed as well as it could have with all the other games that are getting support that are dancing around it, And
so coming out the gate, you're just saying it missed the dunk. Like it had the attributes to be really, really good. Like if I were to tell, if I'm going to guess how you're rating the last three games, that being MKX, MK11, and MK1, I would say MK1's probably the bottom of that.
No, I didn't like 11.
Hold up.
I didn't like 11. I didn't like 11 that much.
Fair.
Like
that's fair.
I liked it, but
bag.
The problem is,
I feel like that was on a technicality.
The problem is that it's one of the things that I brought up in question to one of the developers when I was at Evo. It's like, when you have characters coming back, like, what are your plans when you're actually bringing in older characters? For me, like Devora, like obviously you have Sub-Zero who has the freeze, and Devora, she barely had much of the same that she had in 10, where she was an original character to 10, brought back in 11, and didn't even play the same. Like, it's a completely different character. She doesn't have certain moves, maybe ovipositor thing, whatever, but it doesn't translate. So I'm not trying to destroy the game. I like Mortal Kombat. It's a great franchise. Just forget about the last movie, but there's so much they can do with it. And the last game had more of the nostalgia trip. This one sort of just restarted it all, sort of put the nostalgia. Oh, by the way, for it to not win Game of the Year and have more sales than Street Fighter is kind of telling that people didn't either didn't like it or don't like where it's going. I think.
I mean, if we were just going off of sales figure, yeah, that makes sense as well. Yeah. But it also came out like way later, right? Like Street Fighter came out in June.
It did.
When did MK1 dropped? What?
September.
Not October, September. Yeah, because October they had those extras already. Yeah, so it had a couple months. But yeah, I think between the two, if you were to say how a game should come out swinging, it just did not come with that energy that it should, because it was announced and then it did come out, and it was like kind of a rather short time period, right? Like, just even researching for this show, it kind of reminded me that we really didn't hear anything until like May about the game.
It May? Was it May? PlayStation?
Yeah, it was the Summer Games Fest. I believe was when we got the actual announcement.
That was when I wasn't here. I was in Ohio going to Combo Breaker, right?
Yes, I believe that's what it was. Yeah. But it got announced around then, and then just as quickly the game turned around, and it's like, oh, it's here. Like Street Fighter 6 on the other hand was like, Capcom Cup or Evo of last year. I'm pretty sure it was Capcom Cup of the 22, and obviously didn't come out till 2023. So that was a lot to build up. Like, even though it was leaked, even though MK1 was also leaked beforehand at that like stockholders meeting, but like I don't think that the game should have already been in rotation by then.
But you got to also remember, we knew about Street Fighter 6 coming out way before the moment Luke was dropped in Street Fighter 5. Because they said he intended to be.
Yeah, because he was intended to be in 6.
So like we were already prepped for it, but also I think the biggest thing is you have to look at Mortal Kombat. They did the worst fucking possible thing with setting up a tour. That like Street Fighter set the example where they said, look, hey, we're doing 2 mil, but just know, like, you are aware that the tour will be structured a proper way, and it's going to follow right after the end of the previous tour. And everybody was like, oh, let's go. And it was before the game dropped. And that was a big thing. Mortal Kombat didn't sell that. And I think that's where the audience was like, well, why the fuck would I play Mortal Kombat 1 where Street Fighter 6, I'd rather lose trying to fight for 2 mil. And at least I played a good game, right? I don't know what I'm.
And we're talking strictly on the competitive side, because the statics point, MK still also like crazy numbers, like
it's
as much as we say it competitively, like that, how MK is smaller. Like when we're talking the broader audience, like fucking Mortal Kombat has a day of the year. Mortal Mondays is a thing and has been a thing since the 90s. Like, let's just be very clear. I don't see a Street Fighter Saturday or a Sunday nowhere. Right?
True.
Like,
no,
that's how
Tuesday.
Engraved it is. It was a Tuesday. Sorry, my bad.
But let's be real. They did kill their own. They did kill their own audience in general with the Switch release. Like that was probably the worst thing they could have done.
That was
realistically.
That was
because like
that's
what happens. Normally they'll drop something like that later down the road.
Later down the line,
okay, right? It'll be playable. We've seen them do it with X, with 11. We've seen other games do it, and it was still like the same thing but better. It was just like, oh, we have more mechanics or we have more testable stuff because people are going to use it on the road. But the biggest thing that I didn't like was you did all this, no crossplay. PC has more issues than anything, to the point where people can't even play it because of the Jin version. Yeah, we're return my damn game as soon as possible. You know what I mean? Or just don't play it. And now we're talking about the numbers.
So I think another reason why I probably didn't win like Game of the Year is because you have everybody that you play online is either gonna talk trash to you through your controller, or just like there's you can see the attitude of the players when they play it. It's just like, oh, I hate this game, and it's just
the mic still doesn't work. That system that they have in the game still doesn't work.
Oh no, it does. It does.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah, toxic community aside, like I'm not sure how that's relevant in the Game Awards side of things, but I do get it. It does. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth for sure.
Well, anyway, so overall, like they could have fixed it with a better DLC schedule. We had 6 characters. I don't want to say, I mean, listen, I'm not the one who's going to sit here and make the characters. I don't know how long it takes, but like Homelander, John Cena, aka whatever his name is, and Takeda, and even Ermac, who's in the game, and obviously Quan Chi in the game as well, but he's out now. Shang Tsung was also kind of DLC, but not really, but you had to buy the game with it. You have to unlock Havoc, or unlock other things. Yep. You got to go through story mode. I also feel like it was a little bit of a bare bones game if you're not into the crypt, or not crypt, but with the tables, the mesas, whatever that's called.
Yeah. I will push back a little bit on the Peacemaker character, and also on the second to last character, Homelander. Remember, they're still doing their shows, their prospective shows, and Homelander did just finish with, spoilers, next gen. So he had his own part in there. Plus, we
speculated that potentially scheduling differences due to things like the strike, things outside of their control. So that's understandable.
So I think that played a bigger role in the release for that. But go on.
All right,
I'm done. It's just left sour taste, but it's okay. It doesn't linger. Hopefully,
of all things, MK seems to be the one that Static just does not want to remember, or rather, not remember. Just thinks didn't come out as hard as it probably could have in 2023. But that does not mean it can't improve. That does not mean it can't get better. It still has time. Hopefully, NRS curse continues to break. It has broken in MK11, where the game is done after 2 years. It surprisingly got supported and survived, well past that. But we'll just have to see as to what is going to happen in